We've got so much to cover in this video. I think we're going to start with this because this is actually insane. This is New York considering a bill that would ban chatbots from giving legal and medical advice. So what this would do is prevent the likes of Claude, of ChatGPT, of Gemini, of Copilot giving you medical advice. Now, obviously, anyone with a brain would not take what a chatbot tells them as gospel and go, okay, I'm fine. Always go and see a medical professional. However, using them in conjunction with trying to work out what's wrong with you, it's no different than a Google search in my mind. However, these chatbots do have a lot of medical grade knowledge in them. So I don't actually fully agree with this, but I tell you this, you could just download an open source model and get your own AI-powered diagnosis from that. So really, there's not much. I don't think this is actually going to be enforceable, because how would they stop you downloading what, like, Quen or whatever, or Kimi, who knows, just whatever open model, and just asking that questions about medical issues? You're still going to get responses. Same goes for legal as well. Now, this also is an issue for people who maybe can't afford to access those services. So if they start saying chatbots can't give you legal advice, can't give you medical, let's keep this more, I think, connected to legal, because for medical advice, be under no illusions here, you should not be using any sort of AI bot for medical advice. Use it if you're feeling maybe, like I said, like a Google search, but please go and see a doctor if you think anything is wrong with you. It's insane to just believe what a chat model would tell you. But on the legal side, right, I've got absolutely zero knowledge of legal issues. Let's say I wanted planning permission to build an extension, right? What would I do? Well, I probably would ask AI. I'd go, hey, I'm here in the UK, in this council, in this district. What are the planning regulations? Can you give me a breakdown, and what do I need to do? Whereas in the past, you'd have to go and actually connect with a law firm, a legal firm, to basically work out what you can do. So I don't think this is a good idea. I'm not for this. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about this in the comments below. But like I said, you could just literally download an open source model and get all the answers you want. So let's get into this then, because Anthropic seemingly have done a 180, and they actually now want to apologize for Dario specifically wants to apologize for what he said in the memo that we covered the other day. And don't worry, we're going to break all of this down because this is crazy. So this is Bloomberg, and this is confirmation now that the Pentagon has notified Anthropic it's deemed the firm a supply chain risk. So the breakdown here is Pentagon has formally notified Anthropic's BPC that it has determined the company and its products pose a risk to the US supply chain. The determination is effective immediately, but Anthropic's Claude AI tools are still being used by the US military in operations against Iran. Anthropic has previously vowed to challenge in court any supply chain risk designation by the Pentagon, which threatens to disrupt both the company and the military. And then Bloomberg goes on to say, the Pentagon has said it has formally notified Anthropic that it is determined the company and its products pose a risk to the US supply chain. The Department of War officially informed Anthropic's leadership the company and its products are deemed a supply chain risk, effective immediately. The official told Bloomberg News on Thursday, using an acronym for the Department of War, the name that the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth now favors for the Department of Defense. But what's crazy is their tools are still being actively used. I mean, look at this. While the defense official described the determination as effective immediately, Anthropic's Claude AI tools are still being actively used by the US military in operations against Iran, according to a person familiar with the matter. In his warning to the firm last Friday, Hegseth had outlined a 6-month transition period to shift its AI work to other providers. Spokespeople for Anthropic and the Pentagon had no immediate comment. The defense official didn't say when or by what means the Pentagon informed the company. Anthropic has previously vowed to challenge in court any supply chain risk designation by the Pentagon. Okay, now I would show you the video here. This is Dario basically I mean, this is fairly, I mean, it's not like, this wasn't like an hour ago. It was a couple of hours ago, I think. Well, it was quite a long time ago for me. It was like 12 hours ago, let's say. But this is Dario doing a 180 and apologizing for what he said in the memo. Remember, he said Trump, I didn't give him dictator-style praise, and he also went in on Sam Altman as well. But like I said, I'm not going to play this video because I'll be honest with you guys, in a couple of recent videos, I've had a lot of issues with any kind of video clip that plays. It ends up with the channel getting problems which I have to deal with. So we're not going to do that if I think it looks dodgy. But we'll just take this post because this post breaks it down. So Anthropic CEO just did a complete 180 in a live interview. Do you regret saying dictator-style praise about President Trump? That was the question. And it was a question because I've watched this. And like I said, there's a link to this in the video description below, so you can go and check it out. Anthropic CEO then said, I want to completely apologize for this memo. He did actually, just to expand on that, he did say it's not really a memo. It was just, I post all the time in Slack, and I just put this in Slack, and then someone's leaked it from Slack. If anything, maybe they should be looking at the people leaking stuff from Slack. I don't know. Or maybe they did it because they wanted the PR win. I don't know. Anyway, it was among the most disorientating times in Anthropic's history. I wouldn't describe it as a memo. Reframes 1,600 words sent to 2,000 plus employees as a casual Slack post. Which I guess, this is the post writer on Twitter adding that, which again, you could look at it that way. Let's be honest. It's not considered or a refined version of my thinking. So will you apologize to President Trump? I've apologized to the people within the Department of War. I'm happy to speak to anyone. So, yeah. But obviously, that's not the end of it. So, this is Anthropic's statement about where things stand with the Department of War. And again, this was released very, very early, or very late, actually, last night, my time. But anyway, so yesterday, March the 4th, although this would be the day before that, Anthropic received a letter from the Department of War. I mean, from the day. I don't even make sense to myself. It's the 6th I'm recording this video. This is talking about the 4th. Anthropic received a letter from the Department of War confirming that we have been designated a supply chain risk to America's national security. As we wrote on Friday, we do not believe this action is legally sound, and we see no choice but to challenge it in court. The language used by the Department of War in the letter, even supposing it was legally sound, matches our statement on Friday that the vast majority of our customers are unaffected by a supply chain risk designation. With respect to our customers, it plainly applies only to the use of Claude by customers as a direct part of contracts with the Department of War. Not all of Claude by customers who have such contracts. The department letter has a narrow scope, and this is because the relevant statute, which is 10 UCS 3252, is narrow. It exists to protect the government rather than to punish a supplier. In fact, the law requires the Secretary of War to use the least restrictive means necessary to accomplish the goal of protecting the supply chain. Even for Department of War contractors, supply chain risk designation doesn't and can't limit the use of Claude or business relationships with Anthropic if those are unrelated to the specific Department of War contracts. I would like to reiterate that we have been having productive conversations with the Department of War, and that seems like it's not the case, but we'll carry on, over the last several days, both about ways we could serve the department that adhere to our too narrow exceptions and ways for us to ensure a smooth transition if that is not possible. As we wrote on Thursday, we are very proud of the work we have done together within the department, supporting frontline warfighters with applications such as intelligence analysis, modeling and simulation, operational planning, cyber operations, and more. As we stated last Friday, we do not believe and have never believed that it is the role of Anthropic or any private company to be involved in operational decision-making. That is the role of the military. Our only concerns have been our exceptions on fully autonomous weapons and mass domestic surveillance, which relate to high-level usage areas and not operational decision-making. I also want to apologise directly for a post internal to the company that was leaked to the press yesterday. Anthropic did not leak this post nor direct anyone else to do so. It is not in our interest to escalate the situation. That particular post was written within a few hours of the President's Truth Social post announcing Anthropic will be removed from all federal systems. The Secretary of War's X post announcing the supply chain risk designation and the announcement of a deal between the Pentagon and OpenAI, which even OpenAI later characterized as confusing. It was a difficult day for the company, and I apologize for the tone of the post. It does not reflect my careful or considered views. It was also written 6 days ago and is out-of-date assessment of the current situation. Our most important priority right now is making sure that our warfighters and national security experts are not deprived of the important tools in the middle of a major combat operations. Anthropic will provide our models to the Department of War and national security community at nominal cost and with continuing support from our engineers for as long as is necessary to make that transition and for as long as we are permitted to do so. Anthropic has much more in common with the Department of War than we have differences. We both are committed to advancing US national security and defending the American people and agree to the urgency of applying AI across the government. All our future decisions will flow from that shared promise, or premise even. I guess it is a promise, but it's the premise, let's say. So, yeah, I mean, this is like, what I don't get is how can you say we've got more in common with the Department of War than we have differences when clearly your differences are major, they are catastrophic. And they've had an extreme reaction and they've moved to, well, remove you from the systems that they use. So, I don't know. This, to me, seems like he is doing a 180 here. He is like, oh my God, we really don't want to lose this contract because this is going to have ramifications down the line. So what I want to jump over to here is, what is the Department of War saying, and what kind of ramifications is this having? Well, this is Mike Krieger from Anthropic, and he says more than 1 million people are now signing up for Claude every day. So it's obviously not going that bad. The US Undersecretary of War says, I want to end all speculation. There's no active Department of War negotiation with Anthropic. So why is Dario saying there is? What's going on here? Microsoft say, our lawyers have studied the designation and have concluded that Anthropic's products, including Claude, can remain available to our customers other than the Department of War through platforms such as M365, GitHub, and Microsoft's AI Foundry, and that we can continue to work with Anthropic on non-defense related projects. So what's key to sort of take on board here is this isn't a ban of Anthropic. It isn't a ban of Claude. It isn't the government trying to ban that system. They're removing them from the Department of War because they won't give them complete unrestricted access to their AI models. OpenAI seemingly will, and this will lead to fully autonomous weapons that will decide when and where to pull the trigger without human input, and to mass surveillance, which is a problem. But obviously, given the things I've just shown you guys in this video, it looks like Anthropic are like saying, no, please take us back. We'll kind of do that. I don't know. You can read this in loads of different ways. It is a very complex situation. So let's keep things Anthropic for a second. And their AI has hacked Firefox browser and found a lot of bugs. I mean, apparently it took Anthropic's most advanced artificial intelligence model about 20 minutes to find its first Firefox browser bug during an internal test of its hacking prowess. Now, what has happened is Claude now has a partnership with, or rather Anthropic does, with Firefox to provide sort of AI security. And this is going to be something we're going to see a lot of in the future. Again, I've spoken about this topic before, but you've got these AI models that can rapidly hack systems. You need AI models to defend against that. And this is this race for just endless AI models that are back and forth against each other. Which ones are faster? Which ones, are more intelligent, are better, whatever. And there's just going to be this constant arms race, which of course means all of the hardware prices is just stupid. And we're never going to be able to buy RAM again, which is fucking crazy. But it is 100% the world that we're moving into. So what about the world that we are moving into? What jobs are actually at risk here? So this is Anthropic's labor market impacts of AI. And I've got to say, when it comes to Anthropic, there are things that they do well. I mean, they have been open saying AI is going to cause job losses. And I think the US shed something like 90,000 jobs the last month, according to stats that came out today, or something insane. And AI is going to start impacting jobs. But this report, and don't worry, we're not going to go through all of this. I just want to show you this because this makes a lot of sense. Now, remember, it says clearly at the top here, theoretical capability and observed usage by occupational category. Now, this is quite easy to sort of disseminate, right? So if the job is a complete information-based job, AI is coming for that job, right? So what I mean by that is if you're using a computer to do whatever, you're probably using AI at the moment. At some point, your job is going to be replaced by AI. I can say myself, right? I can be replaced by AI. It would be shit, but I can be replaced by AI. There's a lot of things like that which are going on. However, if it is a trade skill, if it is a manual job, a job where you would need some sort of specialist robotics to bridge the gap between the AI model and the task, that is going to take a lot longer to do because the technology does not exist for these models to run. For AI to, it just doesn't exist, right? So the model might be able to do the thing, let's say, perform an electrician's job, but the hardware does not exist, right? It's just, you can see this from this. And remember, this is theoretical, but you can see stuff like grounds maintenance. That is like literally not impacted at all by AI. I mean, you can buy robotic lawnmowers and things like that. But there isn't really much coverage. But then when you start moving into things like sales, office and admin work, management, business finance, computer and maths, architecture and engineering, life and social sciences, maybe a bit of a worry that bots are moving into that. Social services, kind of legal, yes, very strong. Education, arts and media. This is the criminal one. I've got to be honest. This is actually fucking garbage. I would be all for a fucking global ban of AI in art. It should never, ever, ever be in art. Use it for legal shit, right? Use it for admin. Use it for scientific purposes, whatever. But to generate art, come on. The whole thing that makes art is the fact that a fucking human has made it, not a bot. And also the bots just copied all of the stuff anyway. He just nicked it from everywhere else. So yeah, you can see this is, if you've got a kid, tell them that you go out and be a joiner, be a plumber, be an electrician, be a scaffolder, right? All that kind of stuff. Get them out there. Maybe not a scaffolder. But by the way, no shade to scaffolders. That's just, let's just say they've got a reputation in the UK. All right, let's move on to this. Now, this is crazy. This is actually crazy. So you might remember we spoke about Meta and their smart glasses. Well, they're being hit now with a class action lawsuit because it would appear that the basically what's been going on, right? So if you film something with the glasses, that footage in the agreement when you buy the glasses can be used by them to check stuff, use it for training, use it for other purposes. But what it basically means on paper is that footage is going to Kenya. Now, it doesn't matter what country it's going to, but the workforce is in Kenya. They get the footage and then they review it and then they tag things and they, annotate it and do that kind of information, which is obviously designed to try and make Meta's glasses a bit better or whatever. And it's meant to blur people's faces, but it doesn't. Now, obviously, this is a huge security breach because what happens if you're doing something private, right? Your glasses are recording. You don't realize they're recording, but they are. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think these glasses are fucking stupid. They have no benefit to me. It's literally just a speaker which can play music. You can ask it questions and it'll ask the Meta AI, or it'll record things clandestine. That's literally it. These things, like you can ask AI whatever you want through your phone. You can listen to music through your phone, and it's going to be way better quality with earbuds. And so what? These are just for filming people. And like I said to you guys before, all them people, them dickheads on TikTok that film people in compromising situations with these glasses who don't realize they're being filmed. Yeah, it's not great. So this, fuck Meta, sue the shit out of them. It wouldn't be an update, would it? It wouldn't be a let's browse the news together video without talking about OpenAI, would it? Oh no, it wouldn't. So SoftBank, this is like SoftBank are seeking a 40 billion loan to fund their loan to OpenAI. I mean, let that sink in. What is going on here? Like this is crazy. You can see here the proposed finance would be a bridging loan that will be paid back in about a year. It is said that many lenders, including JP Morgan, are involved in backing the acquisition. SoftBank and banks are still talking, and the loan's final conditions might yet alter. That is crazy. I mean, you can see here, analysts claim that SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son has made a big strategic bet on OpenAI by moving the corporation more and more towards investments in artificial intelligence. At the end of last year, the Japanese company owned around 11% of the AI startup. So the reason why the banks would obviously give them a loan here would be if OpenAI suddenly goes parabolic, does a massive IPO, and everything that SoftBank has invested into OpenAI up until that point becomes 10x more value or whatever, and then they can obviously pay back the loan with interest, and it's all easy, and it's actually quite a good bet. So I don't know, but to me, this just seems bonkers. They're taking a loan out to fund the loan. Like, what the fuck is going on? So what about Nvidia? All right, then. So they're stopping production of chips intended for the Chinese market. Now, Dario from Anthropic will be all for this. He doesn't want China to have the latest chips. However, Nvidia were not selling them the latest chips. They're only selling them H200s, which is the older chip. But now it looks like the US government are actually going to prevent, or it needs to go through a review process, and they deem whether the chips can be sent to a foreign partner or foreign sales or whatever. And I believe they're probably going to try and use this as a bit of a stick. It's going to be, you do what we tell you to do, or we won't let you have the opportunity to buy the latest AI chips. And Nvidia is saying, look, we're not going to make the H200s anymore. We're just going to make Vera Rubin. So this sums up the situation a little bit better. You can see from the quote, instead of waiting in limbo, Nvidia has to move on what it can achieve with certainty, especially when there's a shortage of supply for its advanced stuff. This could, in a way, accelerate the Vera Rubin delivery and rollout. So again, everything always comes back to money, right? Nvidia need to sell more of their more advanced chips, right? So they hit the financial targets for the next quarter and blast through them, and everyone thinks the economy is great and it's all doing well. Producing H200s with production capacity isn't going to cure that, but obviously they want the market in China to open up to them because ultimately they want to sell them more advanced stuff. But it looks like the US is now moving in a direction where they're just going to prevent that. And Nvidia is saying, look, we're not making the older chips anymore. We're going to make the new ones because we want to make the most money. Of course, this is all bollocks to us because it means they're not going to be making new GPUs for us. And it means, obviously, like I go on about in every video, the hardware prices across the board are absolutely astronomical for us. You're going to see price increases for everything, anything that uses memory, high bandwidth memory, anything that uses storage, SSDs, even mechanical hard drives. You know, all of this stuff is just wildly more expensive because of all this AI build out. Right then, so there we go, guys. Now let me know what you think about this in the comments below. I'm very interested to see what you think about the possible ban on AI chatbots actually giving medical and legal responses, when obviously it would be kind of just irrelevant because you could just download an open source model if you really wanted to and get the answers that way. But yeah, I want you guys to sort of let me know what you think about that, because that could open wider things. Like, I'm all for banning it from ever producing music, video, anything that's creative or artwork. But then other people would say, no, I like using it. It's actually quite easy for me to use it to do this and that. I don't know. I think that people are idiots, and I've got no time for them. All right, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next video. Remember, you can follow me on everything, which is @Stylosa. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next video. See you soon.